You thought you were bringing home this precious puppy, and when you got them home, they were all sweet and cuddly and cute, but now you've got a toothy tornado on your hands that won't stop biting your hands and your feet and even your face. Does that sound familiar? If you're sick of the non-stop puppy biting, then you're gonna love this video. Alright, what's up everybody? I'm Jake and welcome to Golden Hearts. If you're watching this video, I probably don't have to tell you how frustrating puppy biting is. It wasn't too long ago when my handsome boy Oliver was a young, wild puppy who thought my fingers were literal chew toys. It was so frustrating and painful, and it can actually be a little scary if you have kids. But if you're currently in this situation, here's some good news. With the tips in this video, you will be able to stop your puppy from biting non-stop. And here's more good news. Their razor-sharp teeth will fall out when they're about 4 to 6 months old, and they're going to be replaced with much duller teeth. Before you know it, you're going to have the sweet dog that you've always dreamed of, and not a land shark. Also know this, puppy biting is totally normal. They're not trying to hurt you, and they're not trying to make you mad. It's just how they play and explore the world. They don't have opposable thumbs like us, so they can't just pick up things and play with them with their paws. Instead, they have to put everything in their mouth. Now the first 3 tips in this video are going to lay the groundwork to get your puppy to have less of a desire to bite. And the last 2 tips are going to show you what to actually do when you're playing with their puppy and they're in a crazy biting frenzy. Now the first tip is to make sure your puppy has enough exercise. When does your puppy bite the most? When they're overly excited and just can't contain themselves, right? Well, you can head this off by getting them enough exercise. But here's the secret. With young puppies, it's not just about physically exercising them. It's also about mentally exercising them. Their joints are still developing, so you can't really take them for a long walk or a run. But the good news is that mentally exercising them is going to wear them out just as much. Now my 2 favorite ways of mentally exercising your puppy are through training and puzzle toys. So when you're training a really young puppy, you're not going to be doing anything complicated. All you're going to do is teach them things like sit, or down, or just getting them to look at you, or teaching them their name. But the problem with training young puppies is that they have the attention span of a goldfish, so formal training sessions can really only last a couple of minutes. But here's the solution. Play training games. One option is to do what I like to call food toss. So you take their dinner, you sit down on the ground with them, and then you toss a kibble across the room. They're going to go chase it, but they also know that you've got their whole dinner there, so they're going to come right back to you. Then you could feed them to reward them for coming back to you, and then toss it again. They're going to go chase the kibble, and then they're going to come right back to you again. So what you're really doing here is laying the foundation for a recall command that you'll teach them later. You're teaching them that, hey, getting to run to you is fun and it's rewarding. Now another way that I like to train my puppy through training games was to play tug and then mix that in with practicing commands. So you'll be playing tug with them and then you'll get them to drop it, and then you'll ask them for something like a sit or a down or a shake, and then you'll resume playing tug. Now the great thing about this is that you have their total attention because they want to resume the game, so they're highly motivated to obey you. This is best for puppies that are slightly advanced that know a couple basic commands. It's really good for practicing commands, but not as much teaching new ones. Now the next best thing to mentally exercise your puppy is through puzzle toys. Oliver's favorite puzzle toy is a frozen Kong. Now here's how to make them. First, you soak the kibble in water for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you don't soak it long enough, this treat won't last as long, so be sure to set a timer. Then you want to fill up the Kong with soaked kibble, put a dab of peanut butter at the end, and put it in the freezer. The peanut butter is what initially gets them excited about it, and then once they're in the habit and the mode of chewing on their frozen Kong, they're going to realize there's a whole bunch of food in there, so they're just going to go to town on it. And if you want to spice it up and make it even more fun for your puppy, then you can add a couple treats in there as surprises for them. We make 4 frozen Kongs at a time, and we keep them in the freezer so that they're always ready whenever we need them. I'll drop a link where you can get these Kongs down in the description. And yes, in addition to the mental exercise, you're also going to want to make sure that your puppy has an appropriate amount of physical exercise. You can do this by taking them on walks, playing games like fetch or tug, and also setting up play dates with other puppies. Play dates with other dogs are super important, and we'll talk more about them later in the video. You can also grab a flirt pole to play with them if you want to stay a safe distance away from their sharp teeth. Now the next tip is actually the complete opposite of making sure that they get enough exercise. If your puppy is biting like crazy, you're going to want to make sure that they're getting enough sleep. Now this might sound counterintuitive. If your puppy is going crazy, you might think that they need more exercise, not more sleep. But take toddlers, for example. If they're going crazy, if they're cranky, and if they're throwing temper tantrums, it's likely that they actually just need a nap. And it's the same thing with a cranky puppy. If they're going wild, then it's probably nap time. Young puppies need about 18 hours of sleep, including a couple naps throughout the day. But here's the problem. Young puppies, just like crazy toddlers, don't just happily fall asleep. So how do you put an overexcited puppy to sleep? First, make sure they're in a quiet place with little distractions. That might be a gated off room like a kitchen, or a crate with a blanket over it, or maybe a puppy playpen in a quiet room. Then, once they're in that area, or if you need to bribe them to get in that area, give them a chew toy or a frozen Kong with some peanut butter on it. Now, chewing and licking is soothing for puppies, so that's going to calm them down and get them to focus on doing one thing, and that'll ease them into sleep. And if your puppy is currently in the biting stage, leave a comment down below saying, "My puppy is the cutest." This is going to remind yourself of how much you love them, and it'll also serve as a good reminder that you can have a little bit more patience with them. Also, remember this: the cuter the puppy, the more they bite. The next thing that you can do to lay the groundwork to get your puppy to bite less is to set up puppy playdates. Okay, so you've probably watched other videos about how to get your puppy to stop biting, and a lot of them will tell you to yelp like a dog. But let's be real, you're not fooling anybody. Your puppy doesn't think that you're another dog. But here's the thing, people say that because that's what your puppy's litter mates are doing to get them to not bite so hard. So, instead of you telling them not to bite so hard by yelping like a dog, what you should actually do is to set up play dates with other dogs. Now, puppies bite to learn acquired bite inhibition. And there is something that you can do to help with it, which we'll talk about later in this video, but the best teachers of acquired bite inhibition are other dogs. So where do you find puppy playmates for your dog? The first way is to enroll your puppy in a puppy training course. This will be a great way for your puppies to play with other dogs who are vaccinated under proper supervision. It'll also be a great way for them to socialize with other humans, like the trainer and other owners. And as a bonus, you can get some emotional support from some other people who are in the same stage as puppy parenting as you. Some other ways to find vaccinated dogs for your puppy to play with is to 1. Ask your friends if they have any good dogs who would be a good pair with your pup. You can ask the breeder for the contact information of the other parents who bought the puppies in their litter, or you can also just ask the breeder if they have any puppies that your dog can play with. Now, setting up puppy playdates is a part of socializing your puppy, but it's only a small part. If you want to learn more about socializing your puppy, which is one of the most important things that you can do for them, then you can watch my video about the 5 things to do every day to avoid having a crazy puppy, which I'll cue up next. So now that you've set your puppy up for success and you're going to help them want to bite less, what do you do when you're actually playing with them and they're in a biting frenzy? Well, first, let's talk about what not to do. Here are 3 things that you never want to do when your puppy is biting you. You never want to smack them, you never want to squirt them with a bottle in the face, and you never want to yell at them. So why don't you want to do these things? Well, they might work in the short term, but in the long term, it could hurt your relationship with your puppy. You don't want to have your puppy have negative associations with you. When you smack them or bop them on the nose and they're biting you, then your puppy might associate your hand going towards them with pain. So the next time that you reach your hand out to pet your puppy, they might think they're going to get smacked rather than you're just trying to give them some love and pet them. When your puppy is young, your relationship with them is extra fragile, and they're always learning. What you don't want them to learn is that you hurt them, or you scare them, or you're mean. Plus, they don't know any better. Would you smack a 1-year-old for accidentally hitting you or grabbing your hair? Absolutely not. They're not trying to hurt you, they just haven't learned that that's not right. So if you agree that you shouldn't be smacking or yelling your puppy, then give this video a like so that more people can see this video and more people can treat their puppies the right way. Now, what should you do if your puppy is biting you? Well, the first thing is to redirect their attention. Keep in mind that it's normal for puppies to bite. So just because you did the 3 steps that we talked about earlier doesn't mean that they're automatically going to stop biting overnight. But when you're playing with them and they do bite, always have a toy handy to redirect their attention to. So let's say you're playing with your puppy and they start biting your fingers. Well, what you can do is hit them with a bait and switch and get them to start biting the toy. Then when they do start biting the toy, praise them so that they know that this is what they're supposed to be biting and not your fingers. This avocado is one of Oliver's favorite plush toys, and it's really durable compared to other plush toys. The problem that I found with bears or ducks or lambs is that their ears or their tails or their wings can easily get pulled off. The great thing about avocados is that they don't have any appendages. If you want to get this avocado, I'll drop a link for it down in the description. So let's say that your puppy is completely out of their mind. You've tried to redirect their attention with a plush toy, but it's just not working. Here's what to do next. Remove yourself from the situation. Puppies, like toddlers, can be totally out of control sometimes. And in that case, it's best to just remove yourself from harm's way. Now this can be done in stages. So if you're sitting on the ground with your puppy playing with them and they're biting nonstop, then maybe you could sit up on a chair and play with them. But if that doesn't work, then you're probably gonna have to leave the room altogether. And here's a tip, you need to calmly leave the room. Here's a fun story about why this is so important. So I love fishing, and when you're fishing with lures, you bounce them along the bottom to try to get the fish to strike. Now you want to bounce them erratically because that'll generate what we call a reaction strike. And it's the same thing with puppies. If you erratically leave the room, you're going to generate a reaction strike from them. They're going to love biting your ankles, and they're going to think it's fun. So you might be asking, what if my puppy follows me? That's a great question, and what you're going to have to do is do a little bit of planning ahead. When you think that your puppy is about to be in one of those moods, then you're going to need to make sure that you're playing with them in an area that you can leave. So for example, you might be in a room and you have baby gates on the doorways so that you can leave the room and leave the puppy in there. Or you're playing with them in a playpen so that if they get unreasonable in there, you can just step out of the playpen and they're in there by themselves. You also might want to use a house line, which is really just a leash with a handle cut off to it, attached to your puppy's collar, or even just a light rope attached to their collar. House lines are important so you can get control of your puppy when they're being out of control. So if they try to go bite you and then run away, then bite you and run away, if they don't have a house line, you might not be able to get control of them. So always keep a house line on your puppy when they're in this crazy mood. Now, why does removing yourself from harm's way actually work? Well, for one, you're going to stop bad habits from forming. So if your puppy bites you every time they play with you, then they're going to continue to bite you every time they play with you. But if you remove yourself from the situation, then that's going to stop that habit from being so ingrained. Also, if they learn that every time they bite hard, then you leave and play stops, then they're going to stop biting so hard. Now, if you're struggling with puppy biting, then you might also be struggling with your puppy barking or jumping or chewing up their house or even them being a Velcro dog. And if that's the case, then you're definitely going to want to watch this video next, the 5 things to do every day to avoid having a crazy puppy. And if this video was helpful, then give it a like so that more people can see it. And if you want more puppy videos, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Alright, I'm out. Thank you for watching, and remember, never take your puppy for granted and always check your poop bags for holes.